What if you and I had a dream school? Ano kaya yun? Would it have dinosaurs, live experiments, little things that become big? What if we could suddenly see invisible things? Would it have a giant heart or a big, big brain? Or flies into outer space? May sagot sa ating mga tanong, pero tuturuan din tayo magtanong. Okay lang din magkamali, so that we learn so much more. Sa dream school natin, learning is never boring. It's always an adventure. How do we do that? What do we do with the power of science, art and imagination? All the wonders you will find in the mind is school.
Let's learn all about our amazing world dito sa Mind is Cool! We can do this.
We can do this.
Ready?
Get set, go!
Go! Gulat kayo, no?
You're probably wondering, how did we get through that wall?
Pero naisip niyo ba kung bakit kayo nagulat? Why is it shocking if your neighbors enter your house through your walls or through your roof without any openings? It's not just shocking, it's funny.
This is because in our everyday experience, hindi tayo pwedeng lumusot sa bagay tulad ng pader, bubong o sahig na buo pa rin tayo. Ang paglusot namin kanina ni Pisher ay dahil sa special effects.
Dito sa Mind is Cool, we make sure learning is always an adventure. And what's super cool is discovering for ourselves why we can't go through walls. And that's our mission for today.
Una, ano bang wall? Well, madaming iba't ibang klase ng walls, katulad ng wood, cement, even steel walls. If you noticed, when Pisher and I went through the wall, we squeezed ourselves para makalusot kami. But think about it. People in walls cannot be squeezed like that. Look at what happens when you try to run against even a wall of foam.
See? Kahit malambot ang foam, you still cannot go through it. And it's not just walls and people that are so tightly made, they're not easily squished. Things like a ball, cloth, sand, fossils, clay, plastic toys, they're all in a state of being very tightly made.
In a previous episode, we discovered that all matter is made up of atoms. But the amazing thing is this. It is mostly empty space inside atoms. Ibig sabihin, merong nangyayari sa loob ng atoms ng pader na humahadlang sa paglusot ng ibang bagay.
Yes, Mikey. Unang-una, ang mga bagay kagaya ng pader, napakasiksik ang pagkaayos ng mga atoms. Ang tawag sa mga bagay kagaya nito ay solids.
Oo, Pisher. Ang swerte natin that as scientists, we have a solid experience with different materials.
Kami ni Mikey ay mga scientists dito sa The Mind Museum. Ang tawag sa amin dito ay Mind Movers.
Mind is Cool is the Mind Museum's learning adventure which always begins with a question. Our quest for today at Mind is Cool to find the answers to this question. Let's begin. May mga solid na tanong tayo galing sa ating Mind is Schoolers. Here's one of them.
If atoms have spaces in between them, how come my soup doesn't go through the bowl?
Thanks for that question, Carl. To answer, let's pour some soup into this bowl. Ang atoms ng bowl na to ay arranged in a tight formation, like in this model. Ang bawat atom ay may sarili ng electron na gumagalaw ng mabilis. Dahil magkakadikit ang atoms, ang kanilang electrons ay makakagalaw lang dito sa pagitan nila. Imagine nyo na ang electrons ng atom ay parang blades ng electric fan nito. May puwang sa pagitan ng blades, as you can see. Pero, kapag gumalaw na ang blades, hindi na makakalusot ang kamay ko. Kids, don't do this at home. We're doing it here for experiment only. Kung makalusot man ang kamay ko, isipin nyo na lang may electric fan din sa likod na may sarili nilang blade. This also happens with the bowl and the soup. The electrons are moving quickly between the atoms. Dahil dito, napipigilan nila yung atoms ng soup na tumagos. May ganitong katangian ang mga solids. Para mas maintindihan natin, mag-experiment tayo. I'll walk through a paper wall.
Bumalik po ako sa pagkabata. So I was reminded of Batibot and Sesame Street. Yung pong show na format niyo po, nakakatuwa kasi conversational. Yung paggamit po ng Filipino and English, napaka-helpful po.
It's informative, it's concise, and at the same time, it's entertaining. Pero what's also nice about it is it's open-ended because you guys invited experts like the scientists, doctors, and even people in the arts.
We have another question posted on our Facebook page.
Kung ang atom sa lahat ng matter ay gumagalaw, how come my house is the same shape every day?
Atoms move even in solids. The atoms that make up your house move all the time, but they are packed tightly and arranged in a regular way. They cannot move so much. They only vibrate in place. That's why the shape of your house and all other solids stay the same. One way to change the shape of solids is to smash them.
Thanks, Mikey. And now for our last question.
Why I can go to a paper wall but not to a cement wall?
In most solids, the atoms are tightly packed and arranged in a regular way. However, the strength of solids depends on the bonds between the atoms. Para mas maintindihan natin, mag-experiment tayo. I'll walk through a paper wall. Here goes. Oh. Kita niyo, hindi man talaga ako lumusot sa papel. Kailangan mapunit yung papel para makadaan ako. Hindi kagaya sa pader, gawa ng kahoy. Hindi pwede yung parehong lakas na ginamit ko sa papel. Let's compare the bonds between atoms. Sa papel, mahina lang ang bonds. Sa kahoy, mas malakas ang bonds. Kaya kahit konting puwersa lang, pwede na punitin ang papel. Pero kailangan mas malakas ang puwersa para basagin ang kahoy. Pwede tayo gumamit ng martilyo. Thanks, Mikey. Para dito.
Did you get all that? Okay, let's summarize what the special powers of solids are. The atoms of solids are arranged in a tight and regular pattern. They are still moving even if they are tightly arranged. And the atoms cannot fly off as they can only move within their tight positions.
I like these camera tricks. We were able to deeply explore what solids really are. Ngayon, alam na natin na mula sa Earth hanggang sa mga maliliit na bagay kagaya ng abo o butil ng buhangin ay solid. Now, we all understand na hindi lang simpleng matigas ang mga solids. Meron pang ibang nangyayari sa loob ng mga solids kung bakit sila matigas at kaya hindi tayo nakakalusot ng basta-basta.
Meron pang isang nakakamanghang bagay na solid, pero hindi siya katulad ng ibang solids.
Yes, Mikey. Glass, which is what these mirrors are made of. Even if the atoms are not arranged in a regular way in glass, matigas pa rin ito at hindi tayo pwedeng lumusot. Pag ginagawa ang glass sa napakatinding init, liquid pa rin siya. Pero pag lumamig na ay biglang magiging solid. Kahit hindi regular ang pagkaayos ng atoms niya pag tumigas na.
You know, Pisher, I can't say enough how much I love our learning adventure here at Mind School. Nakakakita tayo ng patterns, pero meron pa rin mga exceptions katulad ng glass.
Yup, nature is very imaginative and cannot be trapped into our neat definitions all the time. We must have an open mind so that we can adjust our understanding as we learn more.
All of you help us with your great questions, and we can do experiments to find out things for ourselves together.
Exactly. Yan talaga ang learning for a better normal. We try to learn things and understand things for ourselves. At hindi lang dahil nabasa natin sa libro or nakita natin sa internet.
And we build on the lessons that we have learned. We previously learned that all matter is made up of atoms. And now, we learned that matter has different states or personalities. And one of them is a tight and regular personality called solid.
Yes, that will explain why we use different materials to build different things depending on what we want them to do. We use wood and cement to build our homes, but not paper, even if they're all solids. This also explains why we use solids to build things. They remain stable and rigid at different strengths. And also why we cannot walk through solids without breaking them or our body.
An example of my work, which I used with clay, would be like this, a portrait.
Yung dream school ko po, hindi lang po basta kami tinuturuan kung ano yung nasa book, kundi po yung what's beyond the book. Dito po sa Mind School, na-sum up niya po yun yung mga gusto ko sa dream school ko.
Very catchy po and attractive po para sa mata ng mga bata and then sa mata po ng mga learners na gaya ko. And then yung sa content naman po is very meaningful and informative po para sa amin, para po ma-enlighten kami kung ano po yung mga nangyayari po sa amin ngayon.
Pwede po namin siyang gawing supplement po dun sa aming mga lessons. Before you present the lesson, napaka-light. Kahit siguro mga lolo't lola, they can relate. Tuwan-tuwa po talaga ako.
Ngayong alam na natin ang tungkol sa solids, malamang mag-iibang pagtingin ninyo sa mga bagay sa paligid ninyo. Now you know why you don't go through your chair when you're sitting or end up on the other side of the earth when you're standing. The atoms of your chair and the atoms of the ground repel the atoms of your body.
Ngayon naman, makikita natin in action why it's so cool to know how different solids behave to make artistic pieces, like this beautiful wire sculpture of an octopus, and all these beautiful pieces around me. Paul Quiano, a sculptor, joins us today in our adventure to share how the different properties of many types of solids help him create his artworks. Hello, Paul. Thanks for joining us on the show. Would you tell us why you chose sculpting as your art?
Hi Mikey! Hi kids! Thank you for having me here at Mind School. At a young age, around 6 or 7 years old, mahilig na ako mag-drawing, so I really like to draw already. But then a relative came over and gave me some clay and taught me how to create a figure. So this is like the clay. It's plasticine clay, very soft and malleable. So what it is, so you can play around with it. And I just start squeezing like this, top and bottom, and then here. And they showed me how to make a person. That's how I started. And then when I learned to do this, I made cowboys, and animals, horses, dogs, birds, and all sorts of things. And then in college, I decided to take up, I took up fine arts and sculpture. And so that is now my profession and my career as a sculptor and an art instructor for the UP College of Fine Arts and atelier.
That's really interesting, Paul. I'm sure merong mga nanonood sa atin na nakakita na ng mga sculptures katulad ng mga monumento sa lugar nila and wondered, paano kaya ginagawa yon? What are the materials that you use?
I use clay first because this kind of clay that we're using is called oil-based clay. Because one, it does not dry, it's very soft, it's very malleable, it does not shrink, and it stays for a very long time. Meaning, if I work on a piece of sculpture, I can just let it sit and rest there, and then I can just come back to it without having to think about any danger of it or it being damaged or cracked and drying out. Some tools that we use for modeling with clay are wire tools like this, and also we have wooden tools also, and of course it is really nice to work with your hands. No? A sample of my work, which I use with clay, would be like this, a portrait. So this was started from a small piece of clay which I built up, and then studying the parts and putting it together, you can come up with this. So after that now, so we are going to work with or talk about with our next material, which is plaster, our next solid. So plaster of Paris is a powder derived from gypsum, but when mixed with, proportionately mixed with water, creates a slurry, and it creates a reaction that hardens. And when it hardens, it will look like something like this. So this is made of plaster. This is a planer head that I use also. And you can see because of its whiteness, it really takes or shows a lot of nice shadow or tonal value. Plaster is porous. You can actually create thin works and make it light, or you can create thick works and make it heavy. It can be, it's a strong material, but it can also sustain damages when you accidentally bump into it, or it falls. There's a tendency for it to break. So the limits of plaster is it should be used only, or it's suggested that it will be displayed indoors rather than outdoors, because it cannot withstand the elements like heat or rain or wind. So there's a tendency for it to deteriorate. Plaster is also used as a medium or a material to create what we call negative molds. Now, negative molds are vessels that you put on clay. Let's show you an example. So this is my clay model, and I put plaster or soft or slurry plaster on top of this, and it creates or it copies the features of this clay. It is then transferred into what we call a plaster positive mold, which is right here, what you can see. So this clay model is the one that we use as a reference to create our plaster of Paris sculpture, which is here in the back. So plaster of Paris can also be painted on, and you can add on to it if you wanted to put accessories like decoration on plaster. You can do so by using adhesives or like glue, white glue, if you want to decorate a plaster sculpture, or any kind of experimental work that you want to do with plaster, you can do so. You need to practice safety precautions like a well-ventilated area, protective gloves, and a protective mask, because the fumes can affect you or in your health. So with resins, now this is probably like one of the harder materials that you can use for sculpture. It can be exposed to the outdoors, and you can come up with different forms or different effects. Like for example, what we have here in the back, this is a marble work. Okay, and this is synthetic marble, we call it, or composite marble. Also, you can have a black effect like this one, which you can then later on paint or color for metal effects. Likewise, if you use bronze dust or bronze paints, you can come up with a metallic effect like this. So this is what you can do with resin. Like the plasters, you can work with small pieces, or you can create small works with resin, but you can also work with monumental outdoor works with resin, provided that it's well made, well built, and you take all the proper precautions for protecting it from the elements. Thanks again for having me here at Mind School. Have fun and stay creative.
Thank you so much, Paul. You've helped us understand and appreciate more the solid materials used to make sculptures. And they really hold up because they are rigid and stable. Tara na, Pisher, it's time!
Yes! It's my favorite time of the day! It's time for the coolest meter! All our adventures here are super cool, but some of our adventures are mind-blowingly cool, others are mysteriously cool, and some are inspiringly cool.
Our rating for today's adventure is...
Mind-blowingly cool!
We had so much fun learning with you all today. Thanks for watching. Pisher!
Our next learning adventure will be out in the water. Our question to you, why can't we walk on water?
Please send in your answers, questions, or thoughts about that on our Facebook or Instagram page at MindSchoolPH, or you can send us an email too. We'll share some of your submissions on the show.
Join us next time dito sa Mind School,
Where learning
leads to a better normal.
For more fun science and art videos, subscribe now!